I've been thinking about cutting all of my hair off. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Court. If you don't know who I am another girl who loves to yap about books on the internet. Today we will be going over the 11 books that I read in the month of January and my stats and what I rated them and everything relating to the month of January. And I read 11 books, but I swear I felt like I read more because January felt like it was 12 years long. We're gonna go ahead and get right into the video, starting with my January statistics. What are you doing? You're gonna sit there? Okay, good. Ozzy would like to tell you the statistics. Thank you. I picked a total of 7 books off my TBR for the month of January, and I ended up reading 3 of them. We'll get them next time. However, I am really proud that I even read 3 of them. TBRs are optional. Let's not beat ourselves up if we don't finish a TBR. But I do really want to finish one this year. Just one a month. Just 1 month this year. I would love to finish one. It just wasn't January. Out of the 11 books I read a total of 5,172 pages. I had an average rating of a 4.5, which I believe is the highest rating I've ever had. So my goal for reading less but finding better quality books is really starting to pay off, because this is the highest rated month, average-wise, that I've ever had. So we're going to try to keep sticking to doing that. Formats, I read 2 books on my Kindle, 4 physical books, and 5 on audiobook, or that I listened to on audiobook. And for genre breakdown, I read 3 romance, 2 literary fiction, 2 fantasy, 2 dark academia, 1 horror, and 1 classic. I had a wide range of genres this month, and I absolutely loved it. This is one of the funnest reading months I've ever had. I was kind of getting into a slump after Kingdom of Ash and just kind of in reading in general at the end of last year, because I had read so much. Like I was talking, if you had watched my 2025 reset video, how I was just kind of getting in a slump because I was reading so much so quickly and I wasn't really enjoying the books or the process of reading anymore. I was just reading to finish books instead of to enjoy them. And now I am actually reading to enjoy them and enjoying my time reading a lot more. So I read a diverse genre spread and had the highest rated month that I've ever had. So whatever I did in January needs to happen throughout the rest of 2025, okay? Okay. Speaking of some goals, I did read 1 classic out of the 10 that I want to read this year. I also read 1 book off of my 25 for 2025, and I did finish my book selection that I picked from the 12 books from 12 friends that I'm doing 1 a month. So I did complete January's book rec. For reading my physical TBR, I did read 5 books off of my physical TBR, and I said I wanted to read 30% of my TBR, and after calculating from the beginning of the year, that is 89 books. So we're 5 out of 89 at the end of January, which seems pretty good. Do I need to read a lot more? Yes. But, we're just getting started. We'll get there. It'll be all right. We'll get there. Now, I have all but 2 books physically here that I read in the month of January. So we're going to go into the physical books that I do own first, and then I'll go into the ones that I do not own. I started out 2025 and the month of January with quite a bang. I started out with A Love Letter to Whiskey. I don't know what I was thinking. First of all, this book is huge. Second of all, this book is trauma. I was sobbing. I was crying at work. I was crying at home. I am not usually a fan of the right person, wrong time trope. However, this book made me want to read every other book that has the right person, wrong time trope in it. That's how good this book is to me. There's a lot of mixed reviews on this. You either love this book or you hate this book. I am in the love it category. I gave this book 4 stars. I think if I didn't have this edition, if I just had the beginning where we only have her point of view, I would have rated it a little lower, like a 3.75 or a 3.5. However, we got his point of view, and when we just like saw their entire life story of going back and forth and back and forth, I was hooked. Honestly, I haven't stopped thinking about them since I read this book. I just continually want to read books like this. If you have any recommendations for books like this, please leave them down in the comments, because A, I like to be in pain, and B, I like this type of book. If you don't know what A Love Letter to Whiskey is about, it is a right person, wrong time trope about 2 people who meet in high school, and you kind of watch their lives from, I don't know if it's the very beginning of high school, but it is in high school until maybe late 20s, early 30s, and just how they are with other people, and then they're with each other, but they're not really dating, and then one person's with somebody else and the other person's not, and the other person is like just come over, and it's got a lot of toxicity and a lot of drama, and it's got just so much in one book, honestly. And they try to convince themselves that they're just friends, and we know that that's not true. And this book is just, I didn't own the physical copy. I read this on my Kindle, and I had to buy this because this is getting traditionally published, I heard, and so I needed this edition on my shelf because A, I believe it's stunning, and B, I just need it because I think I'm gonna reread it soon because I loved it that much. So yeah, if you haven't read this, give it a shot, even if you don't like the right person, wrong time trope, because I didn't like it, and I ate this up. 4 stars. Then apparently I wasn't done being in pain because I read The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is my first Kristen Hanna book. This was my 12 Recs from 12 Friends, so I wanted to get it done, but I also really, really wanted to read this book. I have had my eye on this book. I've had my eye on all of Kristen Hanna's books since last, August, so I really, really wanted to get to one, and I'm so glad I started with this one. I tabbed it. This book is a 5-star read. Oh my god. You're following our main character, Lenny, from, I believe, her teenage years to adulthood, and her toxic parents, who are in this very toxic relationship, in 1974 move her and themselves, their whole family. She's an only child, though. I'm explaining this terribly. Up to Alaska. Like, you have to grow your own food, you have to raise animals, you have to deep prepare for the winter all summer long. Alaska. Lenny's dad is a Vietnam War veteran who has a lot of trauma from the wartime and believes that everyone's out to get him and his family, and the government is bad and coming to get him, basically. I forget the proper term, conspiracy theorist term that's used in this book. It's very well researched also, but there's a proper term that's used and I'm forgetting it right now. However, her dad just believes that everything's gonna go wrong. And he also just forces Lenny to do the most outlandish things to basically doomsday prep. And also while they're trying to survive in the dead winter Alaska in 1974. So you just watch Lenny grow up in this situation. You watch how they find themselves in Alaska, and you watch how this little small community makes a home. And it's just also so much bigger than that too. 5 stars. If you haven't read a Kristen Hanna book, I highly suggest you start with this one. I haven't read any other ones though. I am about to start The Women, but this one, it has a subplot of romance. It has women's fiction, literary fiction, subplot of romance, a little bit of a deep action plot. It's just got a lot mixed into it. So whatever you're looking for, I don't think you'll find it in this one. So I recommend starting with this one. Then the next 4 books I read in this video right here. So if you want all of my detailed thoughts on all of the books and just an in-depth reading vlog of me reading all of these books, please go ahead and go on over and watch that video. I'm not gonna rehash all my thoughts in this one because I did in that one, but in that video I read first Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. This is a horror thriller novel that's set in the dead of winter in the Rocky Mountains, where a woman and her boyfriend go on this tour group, and their bus gets like stopped by a fallen down tree, and they're forced to like go into this cabin with the rest of the tour group. And like the first night there, they end up finding their tour guide's head cut off and stuck to a tree. So somebody in their tour group is out to hunt and kill all of their tour group, and we have to figure out who. It was very, very good. Short chapters. I read it in 2 sittings because I was so invested. I did guess the major plot twist. However, there are multiple plot twists and plot lines in this book that have you on the edge of your seat, gasping. Like, I literally look like this while reading it. I was shook. So, if you need a good, keep you on the edge of your toes, horror, mystery, thriller book, highly recommend this one by Darcy Coates. Can't wait to read more. I gave this one a 4-star. Then I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is my first Donna Tartt book, and I talk about in that video how I wanted to read this because it reminds me so much of If We Were Villains, and people relate it to such. And If We Were Villains is my favorite book of all time. And while there were similarities, yes, they are unique in their own way. I give this one a 4.75. It was very, very close to a 5-star. I just like If We Were Villains more. That is my top tier book, god tier book. So this follows a group of classic Greek literature and language students in this liberal arts college in a small town in, I believe, Vermont in the 1980s. And in the beginning of the book, you figure out that something bad happens to one of the friends in the friend group. And you're basically just following this guy join the friend group, watch the something bad happen, and then watch how this friend group dwindles because of it. This book was written so like delicately, but also I was left reeling for days. I constantly think about these characters just like I think about If We Were Villains. There's just such like a deep understanding that you have when you read a book like this for the trauma bonding that these people go through, and that's something that really stuck with me. I also really, really like Donna Tartt's writing. She writes in a way that it's so unique and I've never seen before, and I just really enjoyed it. So 4.75. Then I read All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata, my first Mariana Zapata book as well. This book is a 5-star book, Tobias Roads. I ate this book up. It is the slowest slow burn, but I loved it. I read a quote in the video that I told you to watch that made it a 5-star, so go watch that if you're curious. But this book, the slow burn was great. The way they grow apart and then grow together, amazing. The way that they both treat each other with such respect, amazing. It's just so mature. I've never read a romance book like this before, and now I must read all of Mariana Zapata's books ever created. This book follows our main character, Aurora, who moves back to Colorado after breaking up with her boyfriend. She rents the studio above Tobias's garage without him knowing because his son rents it to Aurora. And so he's a little bit grumpy in the beginning, and you just kind of learn how he opens himself up. And it's just amazing. And I love every second of it. And if you haven't read this book, go read it. And then the last book I read in that video was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I also annotated this book, and this is my favorite book of January. This is a 5-star book. This book is so unique and unlike anything I have ever read before. It's got fantasy, it's got thriller, it's got dark academia, it's got magic, it's got portals, it's got set at Yale. It's got ghosts and like going between the veil, like in the Vampire Diaries. It's got everything. And I just ate it up. I literally read this in 2 sittings, I think, too. I underlined so much in this book. I need to read Hellbent, but this book was so good. I absolutely love all of the characters in this book, the magic system and the secret societies that they have at Yale, and the way that they were so thoroughly thought out and planned, and how each one plays a certain part, and how Alex just integrates herself into this like role while her mentor is missing. Everything is just so well done. This follows Alex Stern. She has like a terrible life, but can see ghosts. They call them the Greys. Yale has been trying to figure out how to see ghosts with this elixir for the longest time. They give Alex basically a full ride scholarship to their school because she can do this. And now she's a part of Lethe, which is the 9th house of all of these secret societies, who's basically like in charge of making sure everyone follows the rules. She has a mentor, but he goes missing, and we don't really know what happens to him. So you have to read to figure out what happens to him. So there's this subplot of thriller. There's like so much going on in this book, and I just need you to read it. I went in blind. I highly suggest going in like as blind as I just said. That's literally all I knew. I knew there were secret societies. I knew that there was a guy named Darwin and there was a girl named Alex, and that was it. But it's so good. 5 stars. I can't wait to continue the series. Next, I did my reread of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame to prep for Onyx Storm, and these are just both 5 stars still. I think I originally rated Iron Flame 4 stars, but this is a 5-star series for me, so it's whatever. It's my reading, it's my Goodreads, it's my channel. I can rate it whatever I want. And I love these characters and I love these books so much. And I reread them listening to the graphic audio, and it was the most fun I've ever had. The graphic audios are so good. And Onyx Storm is sitting right there waiting for me to read it, but I'm scared. Convince me to read Onyx Storm without a spoiler if you've read it. However, I reread them, and if you are one of the 2 people that haven't ever read these books on the planet Earth, go read them. They are amazing. It's got set at college, it's got dragons, it's got everything a fantasy book should have in it. It's got Zayden Ryerson, it's got Riddick. So just go read them. And I need to go read Onyx Storm. That's really all I got. I reread these. Here's all my tabs from the first time I read them. Can't wait to go back through them before I read Onyx Storm, because I'm waiting so long in between my reread and Onyx Storm. And the last book physically that I have here is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This is the classic that I read. It's fairly short. It's the classic Peter Pan story that we all know and love. Peter Pan is my favorite Disney movie. If you can't tell by the copious amount of Tinkerbells on my shelf, I have a Peter Pan print all the way up there. I just love Peter Pan. Peter Pan has been and always will be my favorite, so I wanted to reread this classic this year, and now she's done. I gave it 4 stars. Moving on to the 2 books that I do not own. First, I listened to The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This book was so good. I gave this a 4.5. This follows 2 ice skaters, basically from when they're children all the way up until they're adults. And a lot of people compare it to Magnolia Parks, but I've never read Magnolia Parks, so I wouldn't know. But there's so much toxic drama. Reading this like right after A Love Letter to Whiskey was so much fun, and I just loved having a toxic book after a toxic book. Felt like I was watching a reality TV show. It's written like a documentary, so the audio has a full cast and is read. Like if you've ever listened to the Daisy Jones and the Six audio, it's just like that, and you've got a full cast and just everybody narrates their own part, and it was so fun to listen to. It's got figure skating, it's got literary fiction, it's got romance, it's got drama, it's just got everything, and I loved every second of it. I was like getting viscerally angry at my phone for like speaking the words that I didn't want to happen in this book, but like I knew they were gonna happen. I was texting my friends who like had read this book and I was like, there's no way that this just happened, because there was like so much drama. I felt like these were real people. Like I could like search them up and be like, oh, the 20 whatever Olympics. No, they're fake, but that's like how good it was, because it felt like I was like listening to a real life figure skating story. It was so good. Highly recommend the audio. Such a fun time listening to it. The other book that I don't own that I listened to this month was Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. I got an early listening copy and an early reading copy for this book, and I decided to listen to it. I gave this a 3.75. This follows Sarah and Caleb, which are the two best friends from Out on a Limb, and this is a marriage in peril. They go on this like camping trip to fix their marriage, and while I did enjoy a lot of this book, there was a lot that I wasn't expecting. I thought this book was going to be one thing, and I think it was another thing. I also hyped it up a lot in my head. Out on a Limb is a 6-star book for me, so coming into this, I had really high expectations, and unfortunately, I didn't like this one as much. So that's why it gets a 3.75. It was not a bad book at all. There were so many quotes that I listened to, and I was like, oh my gosh, Hannah's writing is phenomenal. I absolutely believe that Sarah and Caleb are meant for each other. It's not one of those marriage in peril books or second chance books where I'm like, you guys shouldn't have even tried. No, they were perfect for each other. You can tell that they were soulmates. There was a little bit of miscommunication like in the beginning that really angered me, and that's why I feel like I was a little bit maybe too harsh rating this book, and what kind of led me to give it a lower-ish rating. 3.75 is low for Hannah. Every book I've read by her is a 5-star, so 3.75 is a low. However, I did still really enjoy my time, and I highly recommend if you liked Out on a Limb. I believe you will like this. Just don't go in thinking it's going to be like Out on a Limb, because they're completely different characters. I don't know why I would think that they would be the same. I still had a great time, and I think it was maybe just right book, wrong time, and I'm going to retry physically reading it maybe later in the year and seeing if I like it more. Those are all of the 11 books that I read in the month of January. If you've read any of these, let me know your thoughts down below. Comment also your favorite book of January down in the comments, and all of my socials are down in the description if you want to see me somewhere else on the internet. And don't forget to like and subscribe. When I reach 100 subscribers, I'll do a 24-hour readathon. So if you want to see me do a 24-hour readathon, maybe not straight 24 hours straight, because I have trouble with sleeping anyway. We don't want to mess that up further, you know? So maybe like 12 hours and 12 hours. But if you want to see a 12-hour readathon, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends to subscribe, and I'll do a 12-hour readathon. Deal? Shake on it. Thank you. And I'll hopefully see you guys next time. Bye.